But I want to bring in now somebody else from Capitol Hill, and that is Republican Senator Kevin Cramer of North Dakota. He's a member of the Armed Services, Banking, and Budget Committees, among others. Senator, it's great to have you on the show. Thanks for being here.
Good to be with you. Thank you. And I very much enjoyed listening to the panel. I think that Garrett, Shannon, and Bob nailed it pretty well. And Garrett knows the Senate very, very well.
So tell me about that then, and let's talk about this timing question. What are you hearing from Leader McConnell, and where are you? Should a vote be held prior to the election on the president's nominee?
Yeah, so it's a great point because I've been consistent. I think the vote ought to occur at a time that, first of all, gives us the best opportunity to confirm a conservative justice, and secondly, that allows us the best opportunity to maintain our majority in the Senate and or the White House, because we can get one more conservative on the court, but if Democrats get the White House and the Senate, they'll just correct that in their own packing of the court. So there are a lot of political calculations, and I trust our leader. I think that Mitch McConnell's the Wizard of Washington. He knows the calculus better than anybody, and he'll make the right decision. But I'd support voting on it, certainly before the end of this term.
So, Senator, let me just see if I can read between the lines there, because you are talking about the political calculations to also keep control of the Senate. That would indicate to me that perhaps you are leaning towards a vote after Election Day, so as not to force some of these senators to take what may be a difficult vote for them in their home districts. Am I understanding you correctly?
Well, what I'm saying is that's a consideration, but I would leave that up to the vulnerable senators. They know their states best. They know what the calculation is best for them. As for me, I'm a senator who won by 11 points against an incumbent who voted against Justice Kavanaugh in the last days before the last election. So I know how it plays out in North Dakota. I don't know how it plays out in Colorado or Arizona.
Do you imagine you'll get some clarity on that at the lunch that starts in just a couple of hours today?
I do expect that. I think we'll certainly hear from those members. We're starting to hear from them now. It's not like senators are holding back. And with regard to whether it's before the election or after the election, I'd even submit to you that no senator on the ballot this year is going to get into the election without announcing their intentions one way or the other. Now, you might have somebody that says, I don't default to yes. And I personally, that's me. I don't default to yes, but I don't expect it, to take 2 or 3 months to be convinced one way or the other either.
We talked about sort of the when question, the timing question. There's also a who question. As you know, my day job for NBC News is covering the White House and President Trump. I have sources who are telling me and our team that the president, while he talks about a short list of 5, it's really seriously 2 contenders potentially for this job, Amy Coney Barrett and Barbara Lagoa. Is Amy Coney Barrett your top choice here, as some of the indications suggest it is the president's top choice?
Well, I think she tends to be a default top choice for a lot of people because we heard more about her. But I do not share that view. She may be great, but I have to say Judge Lagoa presents an alternative that I think is equally, at least, interesting to me. I'd want to talk to both of them, but I will tell you, I think somebody mentioned earlier that Rand Paul has concerns beyond the abortion question. I certainly do. I'm very concerned about the role of federalism, the role of states' rights in this exceptional system that we have in the United States, and I want to know where any candidate would come down on the side of federalism versus this one-size-fits-all federal government that we see growing with our bureaucracy. So I keep an open mind, and I certainly look forward to questioning them on these issues.
I want to mention for our viewers that Senator Chuck Schumer is speaking now live on the Senate floor. We're going to keep an ear on that and bring you, and you, Senator, any news as it happens. But you mentioned the issue of abortion, and I want to ask you about Roe v. Wade, because Senator Josh Hawley, one of your colleagues, said earlier this month his first question on any nominee would be, quote, has this nominee recognized that Roe v. Wade was wrongly decided in 1973? Yesterday, he made clear that is still his position. I'm wondering, Senator, do you agree? Do you believe that there should be this kind of a litmus test on Roe for potential nominees that the president might bring forward?
Well, first of all, at the risk of irritating all my pro-life friends, and I have a 100% pro-life record, that isn't my question. My main question is the broader question of federalism, and that gets to things like Roe v. Wade and several other issues where what are the rights of states to govern themselves? My concern on the life question has less to do with Roe v. Wade and more to do with, can we please get rid of abortion in this country, or at least greatly diminish it, whatever method that takes. But I don't know that Roe v. Wade does a lot other than gives states more rights, which I think they ought to have. But that's not the fundamental question. For me, the fundamental question is more a matter of, do you support federalism as the founders intended it, or do you think that the federal government ought to pass all the laws for this country?
Okay. I want to make sure I understand, though. So do you believe that generally, setting aside Roe, there should be a litmus test on abortion positions for these Supreme Court nominees?
It's not one for me. Everybody has their own conscience and their own heart and their own issues. I think if we settled the broader issue, you know, the other things come into more clarity. I think it's up to Congress, frankly, to continue to work on legislation that helps protect life at all stages. And if the court finds new information that causes it to overturn previous decisions, that'd be great. But it's not the first thing I ask a Supreme Court justice nomination, or any other judge for that matter.
One of the things, I'm sorry, Senator, I'm going to interrupt you. One of the things that you've talked about, and that other Republicans, frankly, have talked about a lot, is this issue of precedent. But there is not a precedent, right, to nominate, vote on, and confirm a Supreme Court nominee this close to an election day. The most recent precedent, you could call it, and recent is not a great choice of words because it was in 1864, happened during President Lincoln's time. So let me ask you, on the timing here, you also have Justice Ginsburg telling her granddaughter on her deathbed that her most fervent wish is that she will not be replaced until a new president is installed, according to NPR. Is there any consideration in your view that the American people might think that you, as the Senate, are simply moving too fast and need to hold off until a new president is elected?
I don't worry about that, at least not in North Dakota, and I don't think any of us ought to worry about it, because history is forever. And you know, while you go back to 1864 with that example, there are other examples that are similar throughout history, and there will be in the future. The reality is, the timing for me is not so much about where the election falls as is there enough time to properly vet whoever the nominee is. You know, again,
do you think that's the case? Is there enough time?
I do think there's enough time. I mean, Judge Ginsburg herself was a good example. And by the way, speaking to her, whispering in her granddaughter's ear, with all due respect to the justice, this is why we have a separation of powers. I don't hold the Cramer seat, I don't hold the Heitkamp seat, I don't hold the Conrad seat or the Burdick seat. I hold North Dakota's first seat in the Senate. She was an associate justice. It's not her seat, it wasn't before, and it won't be again. With all due respect to her incredible legacy there, it's really not about the predecessor. It's about the people of this country.
Senator, I'm out of time, but I got to ask you, only because Senator Schumer is also talking about this. You don't think Democrats made up that quote, like that Adam Schiff fabricated that quote from Ginsburg to her granddaughter, do you?
I personally don't. I think that would be, I just don't believe that that's the case. Yeah, I take her granddaughter at her word, and I don't doubt the sentiment, frankly.
Should the president stop pushing that conspiracy theory then?
It doesn't matter to me whether he pushes it or not. I just don't believe it, and I don't think it matters, quite honestly.
Senator Kevin Cramer from North Dakota. Senator, thank you for being on the show on a very, very busy news day. I appreciate you joining us.